right, the Iowa caucus is just 2 weeks away. Can you believe it? Time really flying here. And Democrats, Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, are ramping up the attacks on each other. At last night's Democratic debate, the pair fought over guns, how to shape the future of health care, and who is the toughest on Wall Street. Listen to this.
Senator Sanders, you're the only one on this stage that voted to deregulate the financial market in 2000.
Can you really reform Wall Street when they are spending millions and millions of dollars on campaign contributions and when they are providing speaker fees to individuals? So it's easy to say, well, I'm going to do this and do that. But I have doubts when people receive huge amounts of money from Wall Street.
So did Hillary feel the burn? Joining me right now, Progressive Radio host Leslie Marshall and former Bush advisor Brad Blakeman. Good to see both you guys. Brad, what do you think? Is this resonating at all? Are people saying, oh yeah, maybe she can't be so tough on Wall Street if Wall Street is helping her in her campaign and if her husband has received lots of fees for speaking from Wall Street?
Sure, legitimate concern. Bernie at that moment, and that moment only, sounded like a Republican. Hillary got burned last night. By all accounts, Hillary lost that debate, and she lost badly because Bernie was on offense. He was on offense for the full 2 hours, not only on the domestic side, but also on foreign policy. And I think that anybody looking at that debate, and I had to turn the sound down because it was a screaming match for most of it, is that Bernie scored big points on Hillary. And if I were a Republican consultant, I would have my commercials already in the bag should Hillary get the nomination because of some of the outlandish statements she said. One of them, which is Obamacare is the greatest thing since sliced bread, number one. And number two is that Obama has done a great job with the Iranian deal. I mean, this is a gift.
Leslie, we have not seen Bernie quite go on this kind of attack previously in debates. What is it about now? Is it the fact that we're 2 weeks away from Iowa and he's really scrambling to try and get an edge on her? That last night, or this weekend rather, we saw these claws come out in such a significant way?
I think now is the time. We knew it wasn't going to be a kumbaya fest forever. And this was a time where he had to really show who he is and what he truly believes. I think people that like Bernie or may have just favored Bernie in the debate last night and thought that he won was because he was passionate, and that's what the screaming was about. But the reason he's doing this now is there's really a very small percentage lead that he has in New Hampshire, and all, quite frankly, whether they like Hillary or not, have projected that she's going to win Iowa. And then when you look at the map and the further landscape, you know, some people say feel the burn, and some people, I love Senator Sanders, but I think it just looks on paper, I think he sees that he's really got to fight now because the nomination is clearly moving toward her, despite these close leads, the close lead he has in New Hampshire, and it's only 3% right now.
Yeah, well, you know, it's pretty tight in New Hampshire, a state where I would have thought, Leslie, she would have trumped him. Right. No pun intended, by a significant margin. That said, you know, New Hampshire is the kind of place where a lot of people are still making up their mind. What do you think ultimately is going to happen when people go to the voting booths in a few weeks there in the Granite State?
Well, if you're asking me, I would say I wouldn't be surprised that Bernie would win New Hampshire. Although I hear you with regard to Hillary, you think the numbers would be bigger. I actually thought Bernie would have a larger lead. Now, I know we're both from New England, and we know their individual states, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts. But, you know, Vermont is a neighbor. And I think that, you know, often just like New Hampshire is a neighbor to Massachusetts, I think Bernie is perceived as a homeboy, if you will. And I'm surprised he isn't doing better in that state. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins the state.
That's very interesting if he wins New Hampshire. If he wins New Hampshire and he manages to win Iowa, what happens then, Brad?
Everything moves to South Carolina, and that's really her firewall. If she were to falter in Iowa, in New Hampshire, you're going to see money. You're also going to see momentum moving to Bernie, and then Hillary meets him in South Carolina.
Come on.
And that's the,
I mean,
that's the real test.
You really think that people are going to move their money to Bernie? Let's not forget that,
they sure are.
A lot of Wall Street does back Hillary Clinton. Are they really going to back the guy who's the socialist?
No. But that's Bernie's strength. He doesn't need that money. He's getting donations like we hadn't seen since Obama. It's the little donations, but it's the mass of donations, the volume of donations.
Yeah, but at
it's
some
not the single
point,
donations.
some point, you know, once you get to South Carolina, Leslie, those little imagine they're going to take you all the way to the nomination.
Well, you can run as many ads as you want, but you have to look at the demographics of a state. And South Carolina has an extremely large African-American voting base. Hillary Clinton has a major advantage right now over Senator Sanders with minorities, African-Americans, Latinos. I'd go to Vegas that she's going to win South Carolina, even if she lost Iowa and New Hampshire. And I think she's going to win Iowa. That would be my bet right now.
Very quickly, I just want to share with you how they were both trying to outdo each other on guns there this weekend. Listen to this.
Well, I think Secretary Clinton knows that what she says is very disingenuous. I have a D- voting record from the NRA.
Yes. Look, I have made it clear, based on Senator Sanders' own record, that he has voted with the NRA, with the gun lobby, numerous times. He voted against the Brady bill 5 times. He voted for what we call the Charleston loophole. He voted for immunity from gun makers and sellers, which the NRA said was the most important piece of gun legislation in 20 years.
So, you listen to that, Leslie, and I would argue that Bernie comes off as much more pro-gun than Hillary Clinton does, and that would hurt him?
Oh, with Democrats, certainly. I mean, and especially if they're looking at what she said, or with regard to Amtrak, okay, guns in luggage, not necessarily carrying them on trains, but guns, as you know, are huge among Democrats. And even those who own guns still want more comprehensive legislation with regard to gun control, starting with background checks. And this is one area, in addition to health care and the banks on Wall Street, where the two of them have to separate, because other than that, they pretty much are in lockstep with each other on most of the issues.
All right, Leslie, Brad, it's going to be an interesting few weeks.
It is.
I'm looking forward to talking to you both some more.
Thanks.
Thank you, Trish.